Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to BVM Dhammadana series Dialogue Sessions, number 13. Today I'm joined by Dr. Sunil Kariyakarawana. Welcome to our discussion series.
Thank you.
Very happy to sit down with you to discuss an interesting topic that comes from your background.
Thank you very much, Bhante.
Yes. So let me paraphrase Dr. Kariyakarawana's bio a little bit. Dr. Sunil Kariyakarawana was born in Sri Lanka, and he completed his undergrad degree with a first class in Linguistics, Literature and Philosophy in 1983, even before I was born. In 1985, he won the Commonwealth Postgraduate Scholarship offered by the Commonwealth Association of Canada, and completed his master's in theoretical linguistics at the University of Ottawa. In 1987, he was offered a teaching assistantship by the Cornell University, New York, and obtained his PhD from the same subject, theoretical linguistics and cognitive studies, in 1992. Since then, he was offered a senior lecturer position by the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka, and he had been working until April 2000. Around April 2000, he won 2 international postdoc fellowship. One is at Rikyo University, Tokyo, Japan. The other one is at University College London. And then in 2002, he joined the Department of Language and Communication Science, City University of London, teaching clinical linguistics to BSc students. In the same year, he migrated to the UK under the highly skilled migrant program. So it's a long bio, but when we come to the present time, Dr. Kariyakarawana is currently the Buddhist advisor at St. Michael's College, Cardiff University, and the director, Kalyana Mitra, Buddhist Chaplain Support Group. And he is also an executive member of the International Buddhist Confederation, IBC, established by the Asoka Mission of India, and is the executive governing council member representing the UK. In addition to that, Dr. Kariyakarawana has been in his new post as the first Buddhist chaplain to His Majesty's British Armed Forces for the past 16 years, and has been working for the MOD, providing spiritual and pastoral care to Buddhist personnel across all 3 British Armed Forces and their families and dependents. He has also been part of the recruitment of the Buddhist religious teachers, RTs, held in Nepal, and presently monitoring the RTs in the brigade of Gurkha, BG. Dr. Kariyakarawana is the spiritual advisor to Tri-Service Defense Buddhist Network, DBN, and the Defense Mindfulness Steering Group, DMST, headed by Lieutenant General Robert McGowan. His personal and professional interest is providing help and support to the community in the areas of mental health and well-being through mindfulness meditation. Such a very vast bio, and you started from linguistic, and then you moved on to studying Buddhism, I hope, and then finally ended up as a senior lecturer in Sri Lanka, then migrated to UK, and moved on to the chaplaincy. Perhaps we can start from there, and then
Absolutely.
we can go to the topic.
Yes, absolutely, Bhante. And thank you so much, and such a privilege to sit down with you, such a renowned scholar. You're absolutely right. I mean, I started off with, my keen interest was in Buddhist philosophy. But as you know, Buddhist philosophy cannot be properly studied without classical language like Sanskrit, Pali, and so on. So that's how I got interested in linguistics. So language plays a key role in kind of finding the true words of the Buddha, or any master for that matter. So over the years, I have been actually, though linguistics was my keen interest, I also been kind of transitioning into other areas like mindfulness and spiritual, support. Especially, when I was at Cornell, you might have visited the place. It's a beautiful, campus, But you know, children come, you know, all these students coming from different backgrounds, when they get bad grades, what they do is they go to a suspension bridge, bridge and jump off and take life. So, so I was just thinking, how can I, you know, really help these kids? And so one of the things I did was I went to Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts, where Goenka Ji was actually teaching meditation. So I thought sort of introducing meditation would be a good way to kind of develop some self-awareness of these, you know, students, and which I did for many years. And then later on, I had the, you know, good fortune to actually, you know, with Venerable Dr. Vajrajnana and at London Buddhist Vihara. So when I was a scholar at University College London, so he contacted me and he said, look, we monks do not undertake you know, paid works of this nature. So would you like to be the first Buddhist chaplain, they call, to Her Majesty's at that time. And, you know, and there were 6,000 serving Buddhists, you know, in British Armed Forces. Yeah, it's not just army, but also Navy, Air Force, and Marines, and so on, and the civilian population. In the UK, the Buddhist, you know, population have been actually growing steadily over maybe last 20 years. I have seen maybe, you know, several million. So there is actually mindfulness, as you know, is a way to Buddhism, and this is like in the world today, as you know, you have experienced the Western world fully well, and what is really happening is the mental health and well-being is a serious issue, because now actually there was a time when the heart attack or heart disease was the #1 killer. But now, you know, it's taken over by dementia as the #1 killer. So what does that really mean? That means we lose our mind even before we lose our hearts. So, and the Western world is waking up to this reality now, and there are some ministers, you know, who are kind of preventing suicide and also increasing happiness. Now we are living in the richest continent in the world, you know, Europe, but that doesn't mean that we are the happiest people, though. So, so therefore, happiness, mental health, well-being, now these are serious issues in the Western world. So I thought, as somebody coming from the Sri Lankan background, and also monastic training myself, and I thought it would be a really good idea to, you know, help support, bring, you know, traditional mindfulness to kind of common arena, the public places, which is happening pretty fast.
Very interesting, very impressive. Dhamma folks, the reason why we sat together today is to dive into this topic called Sacred Landscapes, Mindfulness-based ecotourism in Sri Lanka. Now we understand ecotourism a little bit as a what you call non-specialized audience. So Dr. Kariyakarawana has a passion. At the same time, you have, I think you must have been starting certain places and being very vocal about it. So can we start with this mindfulness-based ecotourism? First, let's separate out tourism from, maybe ecotourism from tourism, and then we will head to the mindfulness-based ecotourism.
Yeah.
What is this idea of tourism versus ecotourism?
Excellent. No, that's a really, really good question. As you know, tourism, you know, involves travel, involves pollution, involves a lot of, you know, I mean, it's a kind of a necessary evil in the world today.
Even some vices.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but you know, ecotourism was a phrase kind of coined later on, how to be more conscious, more responsible tourism in the sense that now, as a global village, it's not I'm actually visiting your place and I'm just enjoying your place and going back. And I have a responsibility for the environment, for the people. So especially when I'm traveling, not just sort of spending money and going away, but also to be responsible. So it could be a kind of phrase as a very conservationist and responsible tourism, which actually minimize pollution, minimize damage, minimize its kind of negative impact, and increase the positive sides. Now poor people, lots of people. I mean, in Sri Lanka, tourism is the number one number one income earner. But Hikkaduwa and Mimure and other places, they're kind of ill-famed for some certain things, drugs and so on. But I think ecotourism is supposed to mitigate the damage and the negative impact in such a way that it is kind of turned into a more positive side. At the same time, sort of appreciating, admiring nature, etc., etc. So there is a worldwide awakening about ecotourism. As you know, London has this world travel market, huge exhibition in one of the Excel centers, like in an arena, and there people talk about how we can actually make a positive impact in tourism.
So that responsible tourism should not only happen from the tourist aspect also. Even the facilitators, providers, hosts also have to stick to the responsible tourism, right? So it's not a one-way traffic, I think.
No,
it's like a two-way
exactly
thing.
right.
So how does this connection between tourists and the service providers get together and make the tourist hubs part of ecotourism?
Yes, that's a really good question, and actually it's not a one-way thing. I mean, service provider and service receiver, they both have a responsibility, but the ultimate aim of the service provider is to make the receiver happy, by any means. Now, say for example, if somebody goes to a forest, and sometimes they like to indulge in so many things like killing animals and destroying nature and etc., etc. But now ecotourism kind of dictates, and it should not be the case, because it's not I am coming to your area and polluting you, I'm going back to my my place. But I have a responsibility to preserve your area as much as my own. So that is actually what is kind of implied here. But there are many areas of that, like conservation of forest, and now people are sort of waking up to so many things like forestation, like because like global warming is deforestation is a major issue. So therefore, responsible tourism is kind of reforestation. So so ecotourism is that branch of tourism which really, while also increasing our awareness of, now see, usually so in those days the tourists go to a place and they stay in kind of luxurious hotels and take pictures and go to sort of merrymaking parks and so on. But now that landscape has completely changed, and they're going into sort of areas like now in Sri Lanka or in any other country, you see they go to tea plantations, they go to other kind of cinnamon, like the best cinnamon in the world is the Ceylon cinnamon. So they kind of identify those areas, the precious, as you said, sacred landscape. I mean, probably you are using it in a different sense, but every landscape is so sacred in that sense. So because that's the one which actually, you know, rainforest, for example, which provides us rain and preserve the environment, the cycle of environment is preserved and so on. So the harmony, so all that is actually taken into consideration in ecotourism.
So as you put it, the English word sacred to the landscape with regard to this subject shouldn't necessarily be religious. It can be spiritual in whatever the sense, right?
Absolutely, Bhante, yeah.
Yeah. Can we also include other categories? Is it only flora that you are putting into tourism? What about the fauna, animals? Are we also putting, what are the categories of this ecotourism?
No, it's not limited to any, like, you know, anything that pollutes, damages the environment, like say for example, you know, polythene, rigiform and all the artificial stuff. And so mitigating that, I mean, now see the plastic bottles is a fact of life.
That means good waste management.
Exactly.
That's
So recycling parts. And now the hotels are specializing on those. Now, you know, the Sri Lankan hotels, you know, now actually one of the ways, I mean, recycling is a very age-old. Now, in the Buddhist tradition, you know, as you know, a Buddhist monk.
In the Vinaya.
Yeah, exactly. So, but this was a kind of a new finding in the Western world. But in the Eastern tradition, we try to, you know, actually minimize or mitigate pollution as much as we can. So that's actually part of it. So, you know, fauna, flora, and also people's thinking. Now, you know, modern day people are talking about clean Sri Lanka. So clean doesn't necessarily mean the external clean, but even positive attitudes. Now when you see a tourist, we tend to kind of say, how are we going to rip this man off of all the money, you know, he's got, or he or she got. So that's not the idea. So the idea is to give the best and hospitality. Now hospitality is a serious business. You know, in the Eastern tradition it says Atithi Devo Bhava. Now if you go to India, they say Atithi is the you know, stranger, or the visitor is my God. So now, you know, just to you know, cherish that kind of really good attitude is also part of that. So there are, it is actually permeating into so many areas, not just the environment, but also the way, the attitudes of people, thinking patterns, etc.
It's a very vast area.
Exactly.
Okay. So now, can you delineate about mindfulness-based ecotourism? So you are adding this what you call enhanced layer of ecotourism. So who started this idea?
Okay.
Mindfulness-based ecotourism. Let's start from there, and then we will discuss the rest after.
Absolutely. Now, this is actually something I personally coined myself, because I presented a research proposal to some of the UK universities, especially, you know, post-pandemic. People were looking into the destinations because they were stuck, you know, 2-3 years in their own homes and so on. So, and I thought it would be a really good idea to introduce like tourism, and also combine that with mindfulness, because we are living in 21st century, you know, second decade, and we look at things, we don't see them. We listen to people, we don't hear them. We walk about, we don't feel our feet. We eat, we don't taste our food anymore.
This would be my next question about that. You are saying sensory immersion.
Correct.
But anyway, please go ahead.
Yeah. So the mindfulness is actually making the connection. Now in the Mahasatipatthana, so the mindfulness has actually 2 levels. The Buddha very nicely lay down. Now, one is the sati patthana, establishing mindfulness with objects, like yeah. And the second is the upattita sati. So once you establish mindfulness, you can actually, turn it into an insight, and that insight actually is very crucial for our realizations. So the first step is the sensory connection that we make. So I coined this kind of embed, mindfulness-based ecotourism, and when I presented this to universities, they were quite excited. They said, "What a great idea!" Because even tourists go. I mean, even when you go on a holiday, you take your laptops, you take your mobile phones, and you carry on like same old things, but you don't get a chance to enjoy. You just go to these exotic destinations, but you don't get a chance to enjoy them properly. So my invitation is to, and as the Buddha says, gate tite nisinne sutte jagrite sampajana karya. So be aware of your every step. When you are in the forest, just appreciate and enjoy the beauties of these trees. The trees, I mean, when you go to Singaraja forest, for example, I mean, they are so fresh and vibrant, and they are kind of communicating to you. And if you just sort of stop and keep looking at a tree, and the tree is also responding with that lush green and everything. So and when you walk, all your sense faculties are involved in this process. Like you walk your body, and then you smell the flowers, the trees and everything, and then you hear the breeze, tree breeze, and the streams and so on. So all the sensory connections you can very easily make in the forest. And this is why the Buddha said, the forests are beautiful, and monks, just go and enjoy them. So this is not just limited to forest, but even in the beaches. When you are in the beach, like enjoy the beach and make a connection with the ocean. So wherever you are, whatever you do, making that proper connection. As Acham Brahm once said, we are seeing the world, through a kind of in the window of a racing car. Zoom, everything gone. But we have no moment, to sit down and enjoy. And so therefore this is kind of an invitation, just, as Shakespeare said, it's not, like just rushing. There's stand and stare, So that's the whole invitation.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So, like, you are coining this concept of mindfulness-based ecotourism in a way that help ecotourism, or is it something very new to the subject?
It's a new concept. I mean, the spiritual tourism is very prominent and dominant in areas like India, for example. A lot of people go to India for yoga, ashrams and pranayamas and all of these. But a lot of people go to Sri Lanka, and what we do is we just show the ruins in Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, and then bring them back. But we do not actually tell them what they really signify. They signify now when you see the moonstone, the Santakadapana, and you see the intricacies and we can't even draw, as a picture of what they have really done on a stone. So our ability, so just that holding that awe and an amazing feeling about the history, about the spiritual aspects and religious, cultural, and our heritage, and a lot of things come into its territory. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, on the other hand, mindfulness is a very this, for instance, this This was started mostly by Joan Kabat-Singh's stress reduction perspective. And there we understand early Buddhist perspective of mindfulness. So what kind of mindfulness, how much of mindfulness in that big cohort discussion that you are trying to tell people that we have to include in this particular area, mindfulness-based ecotourism?
Good, very good question, Bhante. And then, as you know, the mindfulness has actually two wings. Like, you know, the one wing is the samatha, you know, mainly making a connection. If you are not there, I am here now, is, you know, that connection has to be made first for us to be able to go beyond that. So this is why I may say sati patthana, establishing mindfulness, whereas upattita sati is a second level of taking off. So my suggestion here is the sensory connection. And once you make that sensory connection, you know, it's like when you develop your samatha practice, you know, or you sharpen your knife, you can use it in whatever way you want. But it's just, we don't have time to do that, you know. We are, you know, rushing, you know, like we are in a bit of a rat race all the time. And, you know, I say just stop and pause for a moment and enjoy that moment. So that's kind of my
interpretation from mindfulness.
That's
It
right.
seems to me that you are trying to take the abstract concept of sensory perception with regard to the beauty. I mean, when we talk about tourism, definitely they brand the beauty, whatever the beauty of animals, environment and all that, and you are bringing that to a certain technical subject, what you call preservation, purification, cleaning, waste management and all that. So because we are going to narrow this down to Sri Lanka and sacred landscapes, mindfulness-based ecotourism in Sri Lanka, what things, different authorities or maybe have done in Sri Lanka in terms of starting this particular idea in the Sri Lankan context? As you said, it's not just architectural places, heritage places, it's the overall beauty of the country.
That's
So
right.
what is the progress you've seen in Sri Lanka in addition to your activities in Sri Lanka? Let's get to that part at the end of your
Yes.
answer here.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good question. But in Sri Lanka, we have been very monolithic in our approach to tourism. Kind of, you know, what do we sell? We sell beaches, we sell tea, we sell sigiriya, and that's pretty much, you know, it. So, but, you know, when we have a huge heritage. I mean, the people just go there and they notice certain things like, how come these people are so hospitable? You know, they're so relaxed. You know, I mean, I'm just talking about
India way.
Exactly. But so we are not actually pulling out the core part of our heritage, our culture, our society, who we are. So therefore, we kind of minimize that part. I mean, you know, I told you about this this exhibition in London, and when I went to the Sri Lankan pavilion, all what I saw was, you know, pictures of tea, sigiriya, beach.
That was the same thing we saw in 80s, 90s.
That's right.
Same things. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, let me disturb you. Why can't they draw out something? Is it because they don't do the research at this point about how to monetize our things to the foreign market, even this subject? Why is it because they are not hiring proper individuals from outside Sri Lanka to do a proper marketing adventure towards this subject? What are your suggestions? I mean, adding on to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are many things, you know, infrastructure developments, of course, yeah. And the other thing is actually the taste, taste and also raise awareness of, and I see, you know, I have done this like for last 3 years. I have set up like 3 different places in Sri Lanka. but no one, no politician, no tourist board, no other authority has taken any interest, because it doesn't, they do not hear this, you know. All what they hear is, you know, like how many dollars are, you know, coming in and how many dollars going out. So, but they, you know, you have to be innovative. You have to, like, you know, rethink and revolutionize new ideas. So, I mean, you know, everywhere in the world, I mean, if you look at India, like, you know, incredible India concept and how they turn things around, you know, there are plenty of things to learn. So in the same way, even in our own setting, we have no idea. Now Bhante, tell me, like, how many people know about Singaraja rainforest? Like, the rarest of the mushrooms are found in you know, Singaraja, and the rarest of the insects, the biodiversity and everything. And these are studied by the professors, academics outside of Sri Lanka.
Foreigners, perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now we actually, even our younger generations, they do not know, you know. Now if I ask you, like, what is Bandura, you know? Bandura is a, you know, certain type of a plant, but we really have no idea. So there are, you know, identifying the forest and the and also appreciating, admiring, those are very, very important aspects. So to answer your question, there are plenty of new things and new thinking needs to, you know, go into this area of you know, mindfulness-based ecotourism. And I have been kind of you know, airing this in public arena for last 3 years, but it just all goes in deaf ear, sadly. But one day, even when I'm gone, you know, somebody will think, oh, you know, there has been an idea. So you just pick it up and you know, develop it. So I mean, as Kumaratunga Munidasa once said, you know, alut dan notakana, you know, the nation which really do not rethink and reimagine will exactly innovate, will not prosper. So you know, this is something that we really need to do. We just, you know, put our heads together and say, what else can we do? And where are those consultants, you know, from all over the world? I mean, there are conferences, but we don't talk about our own. Like, the elephant doesn't know the size of the elephant. So the same way, we Sri Lankans do not know the potential we have. So therefore, one day we have to sit down and talk about how can we, you know, make this happen. How can we really reimagine a new, you know, eco-tourist destination of Sri Lanka?
Can you, I mean, before we get to the challenges, I mean, I would like to discuss with you challenges that Sri Lanka has been facing on their own side. Can you share with us the places you established for this Pacific coast? What are their names? Where are they located? If somebody want to go to that place from Malaysia, those who are watching this, and what is the process? Yes. What can they enjoy? What can they do? How many days should they minimally stay?
Yes.
Perhaps this is a good opportunity.
Thank you so much. I mean, it really gives me an opportunity to advertise my my pleasure. That's wonderful, Bhante. I mean, for the first thing I established was during the COVID time, there was a, you know, kind of a eco lodge. They call it an eco lodge in, you know, Lankagama, and in the midst of Singaraja. And one
Lankagama means Deniyaya, near Deniyaya.
Yeah, near Deniyaya and Nelua.
Can you tell us, the audience, where is it located
Okay,
in Sri Lanka?
It's actually, Lankagama is, you know, when you take the highway, expressway.
No, so the tourists going to Sri Lanka from airport. Now there's a highway, direct highway.
That's right.
And
Southern highway. And then you know, after the service station, there's one service station, you actually exit the service station and the Mathugama area, and then from there to Palavatta, Nelua, Lankagama. Now this is kind of not a route that normally people have, you know, taken and developed. So even that was not in the Google Maps until recently. So The reason I actually identified that was one day I was, going past this place, and then I became really hungry, and then I was looking for a place to eat, and when I stopped this place, the owner, he actually said, sir, you can go and take a nice bath in the stream. It's called, there is a Brahman Alla. There are 6 waterfalls in the same stream. And then when I actually went there and soaked myself in the water, I felt something really strange. I hadn't had that kind of a coolness, and and I just sort of instantly I fell asleep. So I was thinking for myself, what really happened to me? Actually, what happened was, our parasympathetic nervous system gets activated through the nature, the water, coming from the deep forest. This is like a herbal water coming there, and that water was so wonderful. And if you soak in that water for half an hour, your parasympathetic nervous system gets activated. And I fell asleep. I was snoring actually for about 20 minutes. And the man actually gave me some lunch after. So that day, I realized something that I hadn't realized before. This, sometimes if you actually get a bath in that water, so you feel the coolness for 6-7 months. Sometimes I come from London to just have a bath and go back. Seriously, I'm not joking. So one of my agenda is that. So, that is one place. And then within 2 hours in Sri Lanka, you can go to totally different climates. You go to the beach, and it's completely different place. And then I have set up something in Galle, and then near the beach, and then this is called Samadhi Garden, and then I have set up something in Kandy. This was an English, it's an Irish poet called Richard Murphy, who has lived in Sri Lanka for about 10-15 years. He's been writing poetry, being there in Valigal, near Peradeniya. And one of the things he has done was set up a little house, near the tea plantations, beautiful, and overlooking all the really Ambuluwa. Yes, exactly. It's beautiful places. Kadaladeniya, Vaigiriya, and Lankatilaka Vihara. All of those are visible, seen in the same actually site. It is so beautiful. So I developed that, and people can actually go and stay and do their own retreat. So we provide meals, accommodation, everything. So they stay there, and the invitation is just read a book, go for a walk, enjoy, and visit Dalada Maliga, visit other places in Kandy. So my idea is, within 2 hours, you go to a totally different place and stay there for a week, or day or 2, or whatever time you have, and enjoy it.
Interesting. So one of the places you established is in Lankagama, near Singharaja Forest. The other one is in
Galle.
Galle? Yeah. Which part of Galle is that?
Oh, Galle is actually between Galle and Habaradua.
Hangama area.
Hangama area, which is really very famous for surfing.
Surfing.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last one is in
The last one is in Peradeniya.
Yeah. So, how do people book it? I mean, do you have websites? Websites?
There are websites. Yeah. So you could actually go.
Would you mind sharing with us the names?
Yes.
And then the place?
So Singharaja Eco Lodge is one, and the other one is actually the Kandy Octagon, and the third one we are still building the website.
Well, but people can go if they know the place.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, interesting.
Indeed.
Dr. Kariyakarawana, we come down to 2 more questions at this point, and then we are done. Challenges. Now you said when you go to an exhibition of international country level exhibition about products that they are marketing, when you go to the Sri Lankan store, you saw the same exact things that you saw many times in your lifetime. So it looks like there are a lot of perhaps challenges, perhaps they are not organizing well, perhaps the diplomatic missions of Sri Lanka, they are thinking differently, maybe they are not supported by Sri Lanka. Or even if you take it from other people who are not officials, Sri Lankan officials, I mean, it seems that they are also not finding out innovations with regard to our thing. They might go to the cinnamon, they might go to tea, they might go to, I would say, a few other things. What is the problem here? Why have they not been able to innovate, revolutionize compared to our neighboring countries? If you go to India, if you go to Philippines, go to this Malayan Peninsula, why those people are very innovative? Is there a problem with colonialism? Is there a problem with the way how we have been raised in Sri Lanka? What are the challenges that you notice, and perhaps you could give us some solutions, possible potential solutions?
Indeed, Bhante. I mean, it's actually very sadly in Sri Lanka still the bureaucracy is a major problem. Now see, there's a tourist development board, but they are not listening. They are not interested to listen to. They are not learning new things. I mean, I went a couple of times to the place, and I thought they after giving interviews to the newspapers and all of I thought I would be able to at least to share my ideas. Now I've been in the Western world for about 40 years now, so people really don't seem to learn new things, and the bureaucracy continues. Now one of the things, like even the local, like there's a AGA, they want to put up as many hurdles as they can, right? Rather than support. I mean, you come to Malaysia and you see how much you are being supported to develop your new ideas. And I think in our country, so there are people who are trying to pull new ideas back, and rather than encourage them, it's kind of, there's a big issue. Even the universities are very silent and very conservative, and they're not thinking anew. And as a result, actually the opposite is taking place. A lot of hurdles, like the government thinks, if you put as many hurdles as you can, the tourism will flourish. No. So and that is, so it's a lack of new thinking, new leadership.
What kind of pushes them to be stuck in that thinking? I mean, to the hurdles, because if this new idea, mindfulness-based ecotourism really goes well, I think everybody will be happy in terms of money, maybe connections and everything. But they are still kind of push within, inside. I mean, you said one thing is bureaucracy, and you also said that put more hurdles. I mean, where is the bottleneck here?
Yeah, the bottleneck is, I mean, you look at what is being discussed in the parliament. I mean, they're sort of quarreling with their personal grudge. They're raising their personal grudges against each other. I mean, they're wasting our money, taxpayers' money, on just making fights. And who actually, just present some new ideas, new thinking? Are there kind of parliamentary groups? I mean, in the UK, there are parliamentary groups on mindfulness. The British government has very creatively set up mindfulness groups, and they now introduce mindfulness to education, criminal justice system, national health, and workplace. So Mindful Nation is a big project, and they keep supporting, funding. And what we do, what we do is our parliamentary, our leaders, now a new government has come to power. I have been trying to communicate. I wrote to the ministers, the tourism ministers and all. I mean, nobody's even taking any interest at all, because this is the serious lack of innovation, reimagination. And they're talking very big talks, conferences, and everything sort of fizzles down there, but no action plan. So my solution is actually, pull the talents. There are many new talents. The talent pool, get people to discuss these matters. So how, locally, how can we really develop regional, areas in tourism, and what can we do, like agriculture tourism.
Can you give up a certain map to Sri Lanka, like a suggestive map, like northern part, southern, western, eastern? What can the government or those authorities or even people, normal individuals, can think about doing something with regard to mindfulness-based ecotourism in those areas, depending on the resources?
Well, we could start off as a pilot project, how can we actually see how much. Now, one thing I have done is, now all these youngsters who come to surfing in the southern border, like Ahangama, that area. I mean, when you put up a board, it's a Samadhi garden, where after your surfing or enjoyment in the ocean, in the evening, you can come to my Samadhi garden and sort of do some bit of meditation, bit of walking in the garden and admiring new plants, trees. So I have seen so much interest amongst tourists, but
locals.
Locals, our locals go to a place just to drink and dance. They become unconscious after midnight, and they kind of, they're looking for the bush meat and all of that. But I'm not blaming anybody. What I'm saying is,
that's how the culture has been.
We have to raise our taste, actually, and also consider who we are, what roots we have, how do we develop these areas, and make new things.
So cutting down, the possibility to cut down on unnecessary bureaucracy is one thing, if possible. Number two is, what's the role of different institutions with regard to this thing? Do you think the Sangha community, temples, monasteries, do they have a role to play in this regard? Because a lot of people listen to monks and nuns in the village temple. Perhaps because this has a certain flavor to mindfulness, and temples are supposed to support that idea. What can the monastic institutions do
I
for
think
this?
that's a really great question, Bhante, because actually, there are temples in the town centers, like in Galle and in other towns, Colombo and Kandy and so on. And these places, there are tourists, a lot of tourists, go to these places, and we think they are just coming to, see these pagodas and all. I mean, they are also the great part. They form a great part. That's fine. But at the same time, say, if you want to experience, kind of bit of meditation, relaxation, yoga, pranayama, mindful yoga, why don't you, really introduce certain programs in those temples, like towns. I mean, in Galle, there is one, beautiful temple right in Margal, and I suggested to the venerable monk, why don't we just introduce twice a week meditation,
bi-weekly.
Exactly, and
what was the response?
The response was marvelous. There were loads of tourists coming in, but then the continuity is an issue. So we do not have a will to develop, continue, and persist in such a way that it really holds, take roots in the area. Yeah.
As you are a very much expert in linguistics and then language and all that, you perhaps might have seen that there are maybe other reasons underlying in our Sri Lankan cultural background. One thing might be Sri Lankans and Sangha community normally thinks that their duty, responsibility is only to preserve the text, perhaps not to utilize it. Now, when it comes to meditation, now even in the Pirivena, I'm not blaming anybody, even in the Pirivena, we don't see there's a meditation subject for that. That's why some other Sangha members in some other countries say Sri Lankan monks don't know how to meditate, don't know how to sit down. So I think in order for us to ask these local temples near the area, beaches and all that, there should be well-trained monks and nuns.
Yes,
if
absolutely.
not, how to do the meditation?
Exactly.
Speaking English and all that.
That's right.
Yeah, so I think,
And actually, I mean, our venerable monks, when they go abroad, they do marvelous things. I mean, you know, they bear up a lot of difficulties, and then they set up temples in houses and beautiful work across the world. But you know, in Sri Lanka, in the country, we do not utilize those places properly, and there are no monks. And then actually even English education for monks, I mean, you know, you just teach Pali, Sanskrit, oh, that is good, but proper English education. Now I'm very pleased to see a venerable monk like you, actually so articulative and really a good communicator. So, you know, just now they are our ambassadors. So if we empower them, you know, actually we can do miracles. But there is no kind of, you know, will. There is no proper plan, programs. Even monks, you know, they kind of talk about it and then, you know, just forgotten. But now look at this temple. I mean, when I came here, I was pleasantly surprised. There are
outreach.
Exactly. Outreach, and people can come for various things. And if they want to read a book and just, you know, actually get a prayer, blessing, and all of that, you know, you cater for people's needs. And our temples, you know, sadly, I mean, you know, we have
Most
very
of them.
short of monks, but even the monks are not being properly
trained,
supported,
competent enough to address the issues. And Dr. Kariyakarawana, if you remember, few years back, there was a very interesting thing happened in Sri Lanka. Some university monks started going to beaches, cleaning the beaches. And then removing the plastic bottles, and people who saw that monks coming in like batches, undergrad batches from Buddhist and Pali University, maybe Buddhist University, they were giving dana, they were helping, giving some drinks to them, medicinal drinks. Actually, if Sangha members can take an initiative, especially from universities, people will support really well.
That's very true. That's really true. And then I mean, this is why we need some leadership. You know, like really.
And it can also, purify the bad impression that monks have in Sri Lanka about being politicized.
Yeah.
Right.
That's absolutely true. I mean, the leadership of monks is very little understood, and if we really know their potential, their outreach and their abilities, and it's incredible. We are never short of talents, but it's just harnessing or channeling it in the right way,
utilizing
in the right way,
right.
and lack of not putting the resources in the right place and giving the prominence, and that's also identifying the talents. That's a major issue.
Interesting. Dr. Kariyakarawana, we have come down to the last part. So we've been discussing ecotourism first, and then you added your own coined concept that you are doing a lot of things in Sri Lanka and elsewhere. Mindfulness-based ecotourism, and we discuss challenges, we discuss opportunities, some barriers and how to overcome these things. So can we conclude? Would you mind summarizing? Maybe you can conclude by looking at all those information at
Yes.
this point.
Yes, I mean,
What do you want to
but-
say at the end?
I would really like to say that, if Sri Lanka is so keen and interested in developing tourism as their number one income earner, they really have to start rethinking and reimagining these new ways and means of developing tourism into various areas. Like, we really have so many resources. We are never short of the resources, and our country is a beautiful land. Everybody knows about it, but we are not, rethinking enough, and we have to think hard and fast, and then make things happen. Give proper leadership, and new ideas. We should not just shoot things down, but rather encourage new ideas. And innovation is a key for many things. So whatever we have, I mean, you have experience like Singapore and Malaysia and Indonesia and these countries, how they are coming up, East Asia and India. So when we are there as a country, I mean, this is the century of Asia. So millennium of Asia, right? So we got to embrace that, and as Sri Lankans, with so much talent and creativity, we should embrace that and promote that for our own good.
Great, that's what a nice way to conclude. So, Dhamma friends, I was joined by Dr. Kariyakarawana, who is currently the Buddhist advisor at St. Michael's College, Cardiff University, and the director, Kalyana Mitra, Buddhist Chaplaincy Support Group. And also, Dr. Kariyakarawana has been in his new post as the first Buddhist chaplain to His Majesty's British Armed Forces for the past 16 years in the UK, and has been working for the MOD. And he has been sharing with us lots of information about this new concept, mindfulness-based ecotourism, with his experience as an academic in terms of linguistics and also Buddhist philosophy, mindfulness, Buddhist psychology, and now during his time as a chaplain and at the same time, tourism, ecotourism enthusiast, and then advocating, relevant institutions. I hope that this information will be helpful to any country, not even in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka in particular, hopefully they will look into it. Perhaps they will get you advice one day, sooner or later, and then make the country beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Kariyakarawana, for this time, and then wishing you a pleasant journey back to the UK, and we'll come back here more often. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bhante. Actually, it's a great privilege to sit with you and discuss these important topics. Thank you.
And we are going to come again with another dialogue session soon. Thank you. Stay tuned.